Let's move into essence of the perfect pitch. And it's broken into 4 different groups: the game plan for the pitch, designing the presentation, creating the slides that you'll use in your presentation, and finally, delivery and persuasion. Now, notice there are 4 steps. A lot of people, I must say, admittedly, me occasionally, would just sit in front of the computer, open up PowerPoint, and have at it. Well, that's not really a best practice. It may work, you may get away with it on occasion, but if you're really serious about doing the best possible job, I think it's better to follow the process that you're about to hear about, following these 4 steps that lead to hopefully a successful presentation. Lesson 1, the game plan. So this is a book of like I said, the upcoming book from AC Ross called The Perfect Pitch. And in this book, he intends to do much more detail than what we're going to do in this brief presentation about how do you create and how do you deliver effective presentations for investors. So again, reminding you, because we're now look at these in particular, presentation as any length, and length here is of time, to any audience. We're describing who they are and what is their agenda, what are their objectives. Of any size, is it a one-on-one cup of coffee, or is it a 1-on-10 investment committee discussion that compels the audience because you're pitching something you hope they will see and want to invest in, or at least take further meetings that you want them to do, right? So this is the purpose of the presentation. There's an intersection of 3 things that lead to an effective presentation. First, there's something valuable for your audience that you can convey in a succinct way. So you could say have something of value and take an hour to describe it. Most people don't have an hour to wade through all the words to figure out what is it that's valuable to them. The audience could be very general, but the more you know about the audience and what their objectives are, the more likely it is that you're saying the things that matter instead of things that are of no interest to the audience. And the pitch is the effectiveness of conveying what it is in an understandable way and in a way that impresses them in such a way to take another meeting. Business plans. Let's talk generally about business plan. We're doing an investment presentation. We have to have a business plan, right? Well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. What's true is that you need to have thought through these elements of a business. Now, here's a list of 10 things that might comprise a business plan. There are books upon books, articles upon articles, and videos galore on the web about business planning. And I'm not here to argue one versus the other approach, because you'll find a lot of similarity in the different business plans. What's important is that you're comprehensive in your planning and that you cover these things are of critical nature, not only for the investor to hear about, but for you to run your business. This is as good as any of the business plan. If you have another favorite, go ahead, knock yourself out and use that one, because in a way, the plan table of contents, if you will, doesn't really matter. It's the work that matters. More specifically, the value is in the planning, not the plan. And this is a great quote from Dwight David Eisenhower, who was the American president and led our World War II effort in Europe. In preparing for battle, I have always found that plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. So this is a very powerful sentence that works for business, definitely. If we have very thorough and good planning, then we're ready for the circumstances as they'll evolve, because we're sure that whatever we think will happen won't happen. And the planning will enable us to anticipate the contingencies, good and bad, and be able to react to them in a timely and effective way. So the outcomes of the planning process would be identify the assumptions and driver of your business, and those will eventually make it into estimation. But now you've done real thorough work in your projections, not just a quick Excel exercise. 2 is you're able now to create a monitoring process that when you go live, get invested, and you're rolling out, you have ways to measure your success because you were defining how you were looking out and rolling out your product to the market. 3rd is anticipate issues and how to react. So this is the point I was making about contingency plans. If something goes wrong, what do you do? If something goes much better anticipated, what do you do? Can you ramp up production and sales? 4th is gaining consensus on the plan. So this document and the plans behind them will help you convey this to any of the stakeholders: investors, employees, bankers, suppliers, customers. So these are essential for multiple purposes in multiple stakeholders. All right, let's say we want to summarize our extensive work on planning into a ridiculously short executive summary. So it may follow this following format to convey your thoughts. First, what is the pain that you're addressing and how big is that market? And what is that market? And what's the business model? How do you address the need and be able to make money at it? How do you earn revenue? How are your costs going to lay out? And how does that become a profitable business? What is your unfair advantage? By unfair advantage, what is that you do that others either cannot or would have extreme difficulty replicating? And that differentiation is important when you roll out, but also very important once you're having success, so that you won't just be the first one with a great idea and you can't survive because others jump in and essentially take the market from you. And what is your marketing plan? How are you going to get the word out? How will you convince, especially your first customers, to take on your product or service? And who's on your team? Who are your members of the team now? What are some vacancies you know exist that you want to fill as you grow and develop further? And of course, have some cash to be able to grow your team. And what are the cash needs? What are you looking for in terms of dollars in order to allow you to launch to your next phase of development? If you have this form, and we'll have all these along with this video, here's just a form. You can sit down, pen and paper. What is the pain that you're solving and how big is that market? Next, sketch out. What's the business model? What is the product? Who are the customers? Who are the users, if that's different from a customer? What are the cash flows in and out of people's hands to convey the transferring of value? What's the sledgehammer, which is this unfair advantage, a competitive differentiation that exists at rollout but can be defended once you are rolled out? Third is what's your marketing? What's the strategy? What are the goals and the growth that you're anticipating? And how will you get traction in the marketplace? Because no one's heard of you, no one's heard of your company, and no one's even seen the product. So that's quite an uphill battle that large branded companies don't have, but you will have as a startup. And what's the management team? And what does it look like right now? Who are the current founding team members? And then how will it look in the future as you evolve? And what are the cash needs and what are the milestones that will help you achieve?